Hi everyone, this is Marcus Grimm for Medtrics, and let's face it, accreditation is serious business. And if you're concerned about being prepared for your site visit for accreditation, one of the trends that we often hear a lot of colleges and universities talking about is a mock site visit. That's right, actually doing a dress rehearsal before the real performance arrives. And today I've got Chris Tokodi, who is CIO for Medtrics. He's going to be sharing with us some tips for you. A reminder, on the Medtrics website right now, there's a brand new resource you can download about how to prepare and why to prepare for a mock site visit. But Chris, I just got two simple questions for you. This is the easy one. Here's the softball one. Why in the world should institutions consider a mock site visit in the first place?
By doing a mock site visit, it's basically like finding out what's going to happen before it happens, which is a very nifty thing to do. It can be extremely helpful because if you have a good mock site visit, and that's usually done by a consultancy that has people that do this kind of work. Maybe they're not doing that right now, but they're doing it through a consultancy. And so they're going to be able to give you the insights on what the site visitors are going to be looking for and, what you might get dinged on. And so before that happens, you can basically get that report that says, hey, we think you should shore up this, and that area. And that if you do that, you'll probably have a pretty smooth go of it. That's extremely valuable information. And probably one of the best ways to get it is to do a mock site visit.
Really well said. Obviously, there's a lot of things that go into a site visit, and some of those things will involve technology and some of them won't. But let's talk about the technologies. Let's talk about Medtrics in particular. If I'm a power user of the system, what should I be thinking about during my mock site visit? How should I be thinking about getting my data in great order for that mock site visit? I'm sure it's very similar to what I'm going to do for the real site visit, but how would you think about it the first time going through a mock site visit?
My suggestion would be to do it like you're doing a real site visit. That's the best way to do it and also get the most out of the exercise. Give it a dry run, and then we can see how we would fare. And then we have some time to shore things up before the real site visit. So I wouldn't recommend doing anything differently, so to speak, because then your result is not going to be accurate, right? Because we're really just testing the processes, the systems, the technology that we're going to use to deliver the information to the site visitors. Part of that will come from Medtrics, maybe, depending on the type of client you are. It could be curriculum mapping if you're a med school. And so within Medtrics, you should be comfortable with pulling the data you need, whether that be just big old spreadsheets, consolidated PDF report, printouts of things like curriculum mapping, things you want to show. And you also want to be comfortable with pulling the data live. That's something that I've heard from clients that have gone through site visits recently. The site visitor comes and, oh, you've got this nice pre-prepared package for me. Now let's maybe take a look at how you prepared that package. So they might actually be asked to go into the system and show us how you pulled this. What is the true source of this? Because you've given me a sheet of paper or a report, but what is the underlying data from? And, you want to be confident in being able to do that. And that mock site visit can also help with that because they'll probably come in with those kinds of questions and, throw a curveball at you. Every site visit is probably going to have one of those, right? Just for fun, they'll throw a curveball and see what comes back. It may be detrimental, it may not be, but they'll probably do it. So you should be ready to be able to do that. That's not just for Medtrics, right? Other systems might also come into play. Whoever is on your teams that owns those systems should be ready to go and, basically back that data up, because most likely you're going to be showing summary data, not individual responses to various things, but summary data. And so they might be interested in finding out where that comes from, how it's collected, what's the methodology behind that. So you should be prepared to answer those kinds of questions and be able to do it basically at the drop of the hat.
If somebody is getting their first site visit, they're seeking accreditation for the first time, they might be newer to Medtrics. When you think about, getting people from 0 to 60 in terms of being a power user on Medtrics, what advice would you have for them?
The best thing to do is to pay close attention during implementation. During implementation, we might get into some boring stuff sometimes, but it's that kind of boring stuff that's going to save you so much time and hassle later on. One easy example of that, and clients that work with me will be familiar with this diatribe on coding your curriculum objectives the proper way. If you take the time to build out that process, when it's showtime for the site visit and you got to prepare data and pull it all together, by having that best practice coding in place, it's going to make it so much easier. And that's just one of the examples that we go through while we do implementation. because the way we do implementations, we look at your workflows and then figure out from your workflow or your desired workflow, how does that fit well into Medtrics? So we're not just giving you some cookie cutter solution, say, hey, do it like this. We talk through this during implementation. And so by paying close attention during implementation, we're basically training you for your site visit. Ultimately, we're taking the best practices from, we've been hearing this for over a decade from clients that go through site visits. And we're saying like, oh, this came up this one time. So if we do this, we basically shut that problem off right here through this workflow or through this process or thought process even. Implementation is where we're answering a lot of questions about the site visit, even though you might not be in that mindset. But if you follow those best practices, that's why they're best practices, right? Because it's going to put you in a good position when it comes time for that site visit.
Chris Tokodi, folks, he's the CIO for Medtrics, and with a great conversation all about mock site visits. Learn more at medtricslab.com.